God bless America. That's how the broadcast kicked off, and a few minutes later, the internet was on fire because of a halftime show that was never supposed to be this controversial. A Spanish-speaking artist at the biggest American stage, a former president calling it one of the worst ever, and a patriotic, halftime show trying to grab the spotlight at the same time. What was supposed to be just a performance turned into a full-blown fight over what America is, and who it's really for. Bad Bunny stepped onto that stage with the same energy he always brings, loud, colorful, unapologetic, and completely in his own world. He wasn't trying to explain himself, he wasn't slowing anything down for people who don't speak Spanish, and he definitely wasn't adjusting his style to make anyone more comfortable. From the moment the beat dropped, it felt like a celebration, not just of him, but of something much bigger. Flags, references, and shout-outs to countries and territories across North and South America flew by in quick flashes. And right there in the middle of it all, Puerto Rico. Not as some foreign place, but as what it actually is, a part of the United States. The crowd roared, people danced, and for a lot of viewers, it felt like a historic moment. But while the stadium was going crazy, someone else was getting very, very angry behind a screen. Because as fans were replaying clips and clips were going viral in real time, Donald Trump was busy writing a furious, long review online. He blasted the show as one of the worst ever, complained that nobody understands a word this guy is saying, and went as far as calling it a slap in the face to America. To him, a Spanish-language performance wasn't just music, it was somehow an insult to the country's greatness. The message was clear: if it's not in English, it doesn't count as American. And it wasn't just a casual comment. It was a full, emotional rant, the kind that instantly turns a performance into a culture war event. Suddenly, people weren't only arguing about whether the show was good or bad, they were arguing about language, identity, and who even gets to belong on that stage. But while Trump was raging online, another show was trying to steal the spotlight in a very different way. At the same time, Turning Point USA was running their own all-American halftime show, headlined by Kid Rock. On paper, it was a simple idea: if you don't like what's happening at the main event, here's an alternative you'll feel more comfortable with. No reggaeton, no Spanish verses, no global flavor, just rock, country vibes, and a whole lot of red, white, and blue. It was marketed as the real American halftime show, the one that represented true patriotism. The branding couldn't have been more different. On one side, you had a global, bilingual superstar pulling in fans from all over the world. Aimed at people who feel like the country has changed too much, throwback too fast. What makes it even more ironic is that Kid Rock himself has never been some quiet, squeaky clean act. He's been surrounded by his own controversies, wild lyrics, and political statements for years. But in this narrative, he wasn't the rebel anymore, he was the symbol of traditional America. And that's when it became clear, this wasn't just a battle over two performances. It was a fight over what America is supposed to look and sound like. Because when you zoom out, this moment is way bigger than one show, one artist, or one rant. It's really about a deeper divide that's been building for years. On one side, you have a version of America that's multilingual, multicultural, and not afraid to put Spanish front and center in a mainstream event. On the other side, you have people who feel like everything is moving away from them, away from English, away from familiar faces, away from the culture they grew up with. For a lot of young viewers, seeing Bad Bunny command that stage wasn't confusing at all. It was overdue. It felt normal to hear Spanish lyrics blasted through one of the biggest broadcasts on the planet. But for others, it triggered something. Suddenly the performance wasn't just music, it was too foreign, not American enough, or pushing an agenda. Critics of Trump say that this is exactly what he's been doing for years, taking any cultural moment, whether it's a movie, a song, or a halftime show, and turning it into a battlefield. And right in the middle of all of this noise is a guy who keeps saying himself doesn't talk like a politician. He's just here to create, and that's part of why this whole thing feels so absurd. In interviews, he keeps it simple. He talks about how grateful he is, how the biggest pleasure for him is creating, enjoying the process, and making people feel something. He doesn't sit there explaining every creative choice or arguing with every critic. He lets the music, the visuals, and the energy speak for him. While people online were accusing him of disrespecting America, he was talking about how happy he was to perform, how much it meant to be on that stage, and how surreal it felt to go from Puerto Rico to the biggest spotlight in the world. That calm, almost relaxed attitude is a sharp contrast to the outrage people tried to build around him. It's like the world decided his performance was some major political statement, while he saw it as what he's always done, art that reflects who he is and where he comes from. But that didn't stop the internet from doing what it always does, taking things to the next level. Because once the halftime show ended, the Real game moved online. Comment sections, X threads, TikToks, live streams, everyone suddenly had a take. Some people were hyped, calling it one of the most important performances for Latin artists in mainstream American culture. Others lined up behind Trump's comments, insisting the show didn't represent them, that it wasn't for real Americans, and that it was another sign the country is slipping away from its roots. And then there was a third group that just wanted to watch the drama. Clips of Trump's rant were edited over Bad Bunny's performance. Memes popped up showing the all-American halftime show versus the actually watched halftime show. Rumors started flying too. Some posts claimed the performance was a deliberate trolling of Trump and his base. Others
None
said
of that
the
was
set
confirmed,
design and
but that
visuals
didn't
were
stop
packed
people
with
from
hidden saying,
messages.
rumors suggest, or people are claiming he did this on purpose. It turned into a feedback loop. Speculation fed more outrage fed more views, and suddenly everyone had a reason to pick a side. And after all the yelling, there's still one big question left hanging in the air. Because when you strip away the noise, what actually happened? A Puerto Rican artist, who built his career singing in Spanish, performed on a stage that reaches tens of millions of people. He spotlighted places across the Americas, including a U.S. territory that often gets ignored unless there's a hurricane or a crisis. He brought his culture and his language to the center, unapologetically. One former president called it an insult to America. Another show tried to claim the label, All-American, for itself. But maybe the real story here is that America has already changed, and this is just what it looks like now. Maybe what feels foreign to some is home to others. Maybe a Spanish-language performance with Puerto Rico front and center isn't a slap in the face to America at all. Maybe it's a mirror showing what America actually is in 2026, messy, loud, divided, but also bigger, more diverse, and more complex than one language or one style of music. So here's the question the halftime show really left us with: who gets to decide what All-American means now? Is it a guy raging online about a language he doesn't understand? Is it a counter-programmed concert claiming to be the real thing? Or is it the millions of people who saw themselves in that performance for the first time, and don't feel like they need anyone's permission to call themselves American?